Dan Bongino, good friend. Welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
Hey, good to talk to you, Glenn. Doing okay.
Dan, I remember when we first met, you were still on presidential detail. And you said that you were standing in the room with these guys while I was on the air, and they hated me. And because of their reaction, you started really paying attention to what was being said in those rooms. And I told you, I'm really concerned about the security of the president because I was on the outside looking at you and you people like you and seeing the Secret Service being completely inept from the top, not necessarily the agents. It has gotten so bad now, Dan, and I'm not sure that they're being inept. I'm not sure what the hell's going on.
Yeah, these problems aren't, new, and there's a lot of kind of Johnny-come-lately commentary on this from the left-wing media goons. But the reality is, people like me were calling attention to this problem over a decade ago, and I've got the receipts to back it up. I mean, you can go look at interviews I gave to the Washingtonian, a book I wrote called "Protecting the President." All diagnosing all the problems with the Secret Service. You're going to read the book. You're going to think, gosh, did he write this 10 minutes ago? No, I wrote it 10 years ago. And what wound up happening, and, a subject you're probably unfortunately familiar with, is the left-wing media, rather than analyzing what Glenn Beck, Mark Levin, Hannity, and Dan Bongino say, they go on attack mode right away because of the messenger. They just don't like us. See, I don't do the same with them. If I hear something from the left-wing media, I can independently vet. It doesn't mean it's naturally false. Unfortunately, a lot of times it is. But the irony is they claim to be journalists. They attacked me as a conspiracy theorist for telling folks on my show in August of 2023. It's episode 2079, if anyone wants to listen, from last year, where I said that Donald Trump was likely going to be hurt or killed. I was getting that information from high-ranking Secret Service sources who were very troubled by the minimal security posture applied to Donald Trump and the repeated requests for enhanced security that were being rebuffed. And Daniel Arkin from NBC wrote a piece you can still read because it's embarrassingly still up, calling me a conspiracy theorist, saying I was stating this without evidence, without ever having speaking to me or asking me what my evidence was. So, if you're listening to shows like this in your program, you're 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years ahead of the news cycle. If you listen to liberal media, you're consistently stunned by attempts like this on Donald Trump's life, thinking what happened.
So tell me your gut at this point. And I know I'm asking you to go on limited facts because they're not releasing everything, but you have inside connections. Does your gut tell you this is just more of the same incompetence times 1,000? Or is something nefarious going on?
Well, listen, the latter, I can't answer. One thing I never do is I never go down roads where I don't know if it ends off a cliff, because then you wind up like the left-wing media. Oh, look, there's a pee-pee tape out there. Really? Have you seen it? No. I don't know, nefarious. I can tell you the level of incompetence leads naturally to the second question. You're not crazy to ask it. But the level of incompetence here is stunning. Listen, because people think in threes and nuggets and pieces of information. I'm going to give you a couple of chunks of information here from over 10 years of experience and having worked with 3 presidents, 2 Democrats and a Republican, having done hundreds of advances and having actually done 4 foreign lead advances too. So, I know what I'm talking about. Number one, why was President Trump on the X, what we would call the X? Why was he out on the podium at all? It's a question nobody can answer. And it's also the reason in the hearing yesterday, if you go back and listen to it, the director, Kim Cheatle, a failed human being who disgracefully is still sitting in her job, putting the nation at risk from her incompetence. It's why she won't answer the timeline question. Did you notice how cryptic she was?
Yes.
She won't answer the timeline question because if she gives you a time that the threat was recognized, then the obvious next question is, well, if you knew there was a threat up to an hour out, potentially 18 minutes out, depending on who you believe, why was President Trump walked on the stage in the middle of getting scoped out and range located by a sniper? And she can't answer it.
So Dan,
that's why she won't answer the timeline question.
So, but her answer will seem to be in the coming days that, well, yes, but we didn't have communications open with the people
that's
that
a
were
lie.
there. Those were local. Don't you have a
That's
command
not true.
center that?
Yes. Don't waste your time. You just said it. Don't even.
Okay.
I don't care what her answer is. It's called the command post. Glenn, Glenn, you have zero experience as a Secret Service agent. You're a very talented radio media guy. Even you knew that. I actually worked. You never worked in the Secret Service. You're like, wait,
No.
didn't they have a command center? Here's the answer. Yes, it's called the CP, the command post. Every single law enforcement entity working that operation had either a representative or a radio in there. There is absolutely zero chance the command post did not get information that they were working a suspicious mail, surveilling the outside of the perimeter with a rangefinder. There's zero chance. So when, you ask questions like, well, how was he walked out on stage? The answer is such incredible, gross incompetence. I don't blame people for saying there's got to be something more here. I just don't know that. All I'm telling you is that the failure here was so apocalyptic. Everyone on that advance team should have resigned the next day. The director, the deputy director, all of them. How they still have jobs is incredible. Let me throw one more thing out at you, too. Let's just say all of the director's stupid stories are accurate. They're not, but say they are. Say the roof was sloped, it was hot that day, whatever ridiculous excuse you make up.
Good heavens.
I've run into problems in the past where we could not secure a line of sight problem. We didn't have enough bodies, whatever. I had a site with Hillary Clinton. We just didn't have enough bodies to secure a dorm room looking out on her speech site at Hofstra University. You know what I did? I had them go out and get a $5 can of that snow spray, that fake snow. Why would I do that? Because I sprayed the windows, because I figured, listen, if we can't mitigate this line of sight threat and this potential sniper, at least we can block the line of sight so they can't see what they're shooting. Sometimes that's the best you can do. They didn't even do that. They just let the line of sight threat exist. And the counter surveillance vulnerability assessment, which is a piece of paperwork the counter surveillance team looks at, that'll show that they knew that was a vulnerability, and yet they did nothing about it. They basically let him get shot.
They haven't released that, though, have they? That document?
No, they're going to claim it's classified. It's not. The site is over. And here's another two pieces of paperwork. There's a survey called the CS survey, the Counter Sniper Survey. That Counter Sniper Survey will point out every single elevated high point in the area. That'll have been on there, and you're going to see something. I'm going to break this later on my show. I'm not trying to be cryptic or funny about it with your show. I'm just working the angle right now, and I want to be sure I'm correct. But that specific high point, there's a major, major fiasco that happened there. There was a communication lapse that is totally unforgivable. But the counter surveillance and counter sniper survey will show that that high point was a vulnerability. And then they're going to have to answer questions like, when that wasn't posted, when he was on stage and allowed that person to get up there because there was no post there or nothing, why didn't you guys follow up? The Secret Service is ultimately responsible. Why didn't the site agent that they noticed that one of the posts they had wasn't there? I mean, this is an unforgivable, unfortunate series of events that basically caused this. There's no other explanation.
So I had Eli Crane on, the congressman from Arizona that was up on the roof and posted a video of it yesterday. And he was standing in the barn, if you will, right behind where the shooter was. And he's on the second floor, inside, air conditioning, in an office. And it has a window that looks right out on that roof. If it was too hot or dangerous, why were they on the first floor, not on the second floor, looking at the roof?
Glenn, again, the incompetence here. These are hard interviews for me to give because the questions you're asking, again, as a guy with no Secret Service experience at all, my wife asked me the same question. She was a database developer. They're not explainable other than absolute abject ignorance and stupidity. Whoever did the advance that day, I don't know how they still have a job. I really don't. And here's another thing. Here's the third question. So I brought up the line of sight. I brought up the paperwork. I brought why was he on the X-up. There's another question that needs to be asked. How did you not employ? We have an aerial surveillance branch in the Secret Service.
Yep.
Why was the aerial surveillance a drone, a helicopter, a FLIR, a forward-looking infrared, a thermal? Why were these simple tools we use over and over not employed that day? You would have seen the guy on the roof the second he got up there. Kim Cheatle, the failed director, said yesterday in the beginning of the hearing, if you go back and listen, we employ a 360-degree security coverage. Well, 360 is a three-dimensional sphere. That means above and below. Well, where the hell was the above coverage? He lied in the hearing. There was nothing above. There was no drone. He had a drone, the bad guy. We didn't have a drone. Glenn, go to Amazon right now. You get a drone for $40. We couldn't send a drone up in the air? There's a $6 trillion federal budget. What the hell is the federal government good for? Why was there no drone? The answer is, again, absolute stupidity. And how these people have not been fired or resigned is really deeply disturbing at this point. The government has no accountability whatsoever.
Dan, when I heard the congressman yesterday...
Wait, Glenn, hold on. I'm hearing breaking news that she may be leaving, that the director may be leaving very soon. So I'm just getting this now. So we may be breaking out.
Oh, good.
I'm hearing I predicted this last night, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, she has no political support, but the Biden-Harris team doesn't want the headache. The Democrats have bailed on her. This woman needs to go. She is a disgrace. I'm getting this from a Secret Service friend right now. Said, and she's out. So whether he's got something we're breaking on your show or not, but this guy's been a reliable source for me.
Tell me, when I heard the congressman yesterday say that, have you used any kind of encrypted apps to communicate with anyone? I was shocked to hear her say yes. But when I mean, I don't know if congressmen are, smart enough to think this way, but I know I really try not to ask a question, especially if I am in a situation where I'm trying to prove somebody wrong. I make sure I kind of know the answer to the question before I ask it. That way, when we come back to it later, I've got her on the record. What the hell is on her private phone? That's against the law.
Well, because we've been friends for a long time, I'm not going to spin your wheels. There are two people on this phone call, and one of them may have contributed to the asking of that question. So you could probably figure out by the process of elimination. So, yeah, Cheatle has no friends anymore in the Secret Service. They're horrified by her leadership. Let's just say a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend may have sent to a friend exactly that question, who passed to a friend of another friend, and it made it into the hearing. So that's how that.
And what was the friend of a friend of a friend saying that we should get that on the record for?
Because the communications may have involved communications with significant White House officials on messaging, and it may have involved some. Yes. So we'll just we'll see what comes out in the wash. Now, keep in mind.
Did it maybe involve this event?
Oh yeah, that's a distinct possibility. I mean, we're going to have to find out. I don't know the exact content because I don't have her phone, but her agreeing to turn over her personal phone for a forensic analysis to Lauren Boebert, who asked all the right questions, by the way, they should take her up on that offer. I can almost guarantee you she's going to bail and lawyer up if she's asked to turn her personal phone over, or she's probably deleting messages right now.
Unbelievable. Dan, as always, great to talk to you, and I'm so happy for your success. Nobody deserves it more than you, Dan.
You were a good friend.
I love you, Dan.
And a mentor, so I love you too, brother. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.